I actually just had 2 seizures in the waiting room outside. So, my name is Jessica Netherton, and I'm a 43-year-old wife to Rob and mother of 3 children. And I'm here today to tell you how my health has been completely wrecked by vaccines given by well-meaning doctors. As a child, I had the normal vaccine schedule at all my well-child checkups. My mom was diligent to do what we've all been told is the right thing, the best thing for our children. I likely had my first adverse reaction between 5th and 6th grade, but when I started nursing school in '96, we were required to get a series of hepatitis B vaccines. I made it through the second one before I began having severe neurological and GI issues so bad that I had to drop out of nursing school. In 2008, I had my beautiful daughter, Evie. I had a terrible infection, was hospitalized and on antibiotics. Because she was a baby and I was very ill, my friend, who was Evie's PA, heavily persuaded me in getting the H1N1 flu vaccine. I had significant neurological issues, including spatial disorientation, severe fatigue, POTS, yet undiagnosed, and I couldn't drive or even stand for long periods of time. I had to spend much of my days in bed parenting from the couch, and I was unable to work or finish my desired education level. I went to so many specialists who told me that nothing was wrong with me. I was finally convinced that it was all in my head, as all the experts had told me. So I got pregnant with my sweet Elijah in 2012 and immediately had such severe fatigue and was so sick that my OB ordered a full cardiac workup and then threw up his hands and said he didn't know what was wrong, but I wasn't well. Right after I gave birth to Elijah, while I was still in the hospital, they gave me the DTaP vaccine for the whooping cough because they claimed that there was a supposed whooping cough outbreak. I was completely bedridden and in pain after his birth, taking care of both my kids from bed and my mom having to work full-time and take care of me. I spent the next years going from doctor to doctor trying to get healthy. On my own, between 2012 and 2014, I had rebuilt my health so much that I was running, working out 6 days a week, doing heavy cardio to try to manage some of my pain symptoms and other symptoms. I continued working out this way through 2015. By December of 2015, I had been to enough doctors to know that there was an immune problem. I discovered this. I went to a well-known immunologist in Northwest Arkansas, who I highly respect. On December 30th, he said that he was going to give me what is called a vaccine challenge. The protocol for this is to give the patient the Pneumovax shot. First, you check someone's titers, as y'all have all been talking about, to see where they are. You give them the vaccine. They come back in 30 days. You check their titers again to see if they made an antibody response. This is used to check people's immune systems who are suspected of having a non-functioning immune system. The Pneumovax shot tanked what was left of my immune system. I spent a year in and out of the hospital going to doctors. By the end of 2016, we had exhausted all the local doctors. So we went to Washington University, Barnes-Jewish in St. Louis, to Johns Hopkins Hospital, and we attempted to go to Mayo. I finally started getting diagnoses. Common variable immune deficiency, CVID, was the first. We were told at that point that I had gone untreated and undiagnosed for so long that it had cascaded into other diseases. We spent the next year fully researching, and it was only because of our own research that we got anywhere, because the doctors had no answers. By the grace of God, mine and my dear friend's research led me to Dr. Susan Levine, who I have her bio here for those who would like to pursue. Dr. Levine is a clinician for the Center for Innervating Neuroimmune Disease at Cornell University, New York, and has an extensive bio and a published researcher. In addition to CVID, she diagnosed me with myalgic encephalomyelitis, ME, a neuroimmune disease. A quote from Professor Mark Lovelace, head of AIDS and ME/CFS Clinic, Oregon Science University, and I've read many researchers who research this disease have the same quote. ME patients feel effectively the same every day as AIDS patients feel 2 months before they die. The only difference is that the symptoms go on for never-ending decades. So many people don't understand the severity of the disease because no one's ever heard the name. I was also diagnosed with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, POTS, an autonomic disorder. When Dr. Levine was listening to my lengthy and complicated symptom history, she looked at me and said, "Did you get the H1N1 flu vaccine?" I said, "Yes, in 2008 or 9. She replied, "That is why you are here, and the Pneumovax in 2015 was the nail in your coffin." Since meeting with Dr. Levine, I have been further diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. It is a connective tissue disorder that affects all the collagen in your body. And if you know anything about medicine or your body, everything is made of collagen. Any one of these systemic diseases is life-altering. I have 4. I believe with all my heart that God numbers our days. Because of the vaccine injuries to my body, they are likely to be the actual nail in my coffin. As far as my day-to-day goes, I lost the ability to eat almost completely. For the last several years, I have been sustained nutritionally by protein shakes and the occasional piece of toast and a pear. I'm just glad that I was able to avert a feeding tube, which is what most of the people with my diseases end up with. I went from being very active to requiring a wheelchair to participate in life outside of my house on the rare days I'm able to get out. I spend most of my time in bed. There are days, weeks, months when I can't talk. I suffer from paralysis and can't even get out of bed. I go to Highlands Oncology twice a week for 3 to 4 hours at a time for infusions. I have to do sub-Q IgG infusions as well at home once a week. These take 3 to 4 hours as well. I have frequent seizures, 2 just outside here. I haven't been able to drive in 2 years. I am unable to care for myself and my children. I have lost all my independence. There are times when I can't talk, or even bathe myself. I had COVID in November, and according to all the facts of the previous speakers and of some of the previous speakers and our national experts, I should have been dead. And I want to add that when I got sick, even though I have all of these diseases, not a single doctor offered any support, any care, or any help. Even though I was told that this was indeed vaccine injuries, no one told me that I could report it. No one, to my knowledge, did on my behalf. By the time I found out through my own research that it could have been reported to VAERS, it was 3 days past the statute of limitations for my case. My case might have been one of the few that win in vaccine court. Even so, no pharmaceutical company would have been held liable thanks to H.R. 5546, President Reagan's National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986. Throughout my medical journey, even though I am educated and intelligent, informed consent was not given to me. It takes both informed and consent. And I am here to fight for people's rights to have information and to give their consent. There is real risk to vaccines, even the old ones, the ones that have been given for decades. Mine may seem like an extreme case, but it isn't the only case by far. And by my research way before 2020 and all of this, I had no idea that my whole life would end up in this place because I've been doing this for a long time. I could have filled up this room with doctors, lawyers, and people that could have answered every one of your questions today. And by far, the estimates that there are millions of people like me, that they're missing because they're sick or they're dead. Yes, COVID is terrible. I've had it, I know. Yes, people have died from it, but no one should be forced to live the medical life I live. When someone has 4 life-altering diseases and no pharmaceutical company is liable, are these companies that are trying to force mandates going to be liable? Are you, the lawmakers, going to be liable? What if it is one of your own? Where there is risk, there must be choice. And I heard someone else say that today. Thank you for hearing my story. I believe that God has brought me here like Esther for such a time as this, and that maybe my story will be the one that prevents another like it from happening. And I want to add that I risk possibly being in bed for the next several months unable to talk, unable to care for my children, to be here today. If I can save one other person from the life that I am living. For the last several months, I've been having continuous seizures. I ended up in the hospital in May because they would not stop. When everyone turns their back on you and you have no support because they won't listen to these stories well before 2020, then your daughter, your 12-year-old daughter, sits there and holds your head because she's the only one home when her mother starts seizing. I have a 9-year-old son who has a photographic memory. I have been sick his entire life. So I just want you to know that while everyone's saying that these things are safe, they may be safe for some people, but not for everyone. And when we're talking about mandates and forcing, the next vaccine, if I'm forced, will likely kill me or permanently paralyze me. Thank you for listening.